Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss books and horror. And today I'm here to talk to you about the new book releases already for 2024.
It's coffee time!
So I did a video about my most anticipated horror books for 2024, but the list for that keeps growing. I spent hours yesterday kind of curating a long list of releases for 2024 so that I am ready to let you guys know which books are coming out. And today I'm here to let you know some of the books that are coming out in January 2024. Now my list includes a total of I think 32 books, which is a lot. So we're going to go through them. I'm gonna let you know briefly what they are about, what kind of subgenre of horror they are, if they belong to any specific subgenre. I have middle grade YA, adult thrillers, everything is in here. So let's get started. Bruises on a Butterfly by Chad Lutzke. A boy runs away from his abusive home to just live in a fort that he and his friends have kind of created in the middle of a cornfield. And then they make a cosmic discovery, something happens, and then the nightmare starts. So for me, kids, you know, in a fort that they build themselves in the middle of a cornfield and then things start to happen sounds like chef's kiss to me. It is a dark coming-of-age story that fuses Color Out of Space and Stand By Me. Cryptopolis and Other Stories by Robert Guffey. This is obviously a compilation of stories by the same author, and I do believe these are quite fantastical, so I guess it's for people that are looking more of a dark fantasy, you know, slash horror fantasy more than anything else. Next comes a middle grade horror fantasy, and it is called The Curse of Eelgrass Bog by Mary Averling. This is a magical story of a 12-year-old that is trying to break a curse. So this girl's life is nothing but normal. She lives in a museum and she is interested in things like fossils and stuff like that and old bones. And she is also friends with a demon head that lives inside of a jar. And apparently this girl, together with another friend that she makes, is trying to break a mysterious curse. So this sounds like, you know, horror fantasy for middle grade readers that is gonna be a lot of fun. Eye of a Little God, A.J. Steiger. Eddie has lost his job and that was the last drop that he needed. He cannot take it anymore. He is a veteran, he's really struggling with his life, and he decides maybe it's time just to end it all. And he takes, I believe, alcohol and pills, and he goes into the snowy woods thinking that he's just gonna, you know, fall asleep, pass out, and probably not make it out alive. But then he is surprised to know that he's still alive, and he hears a voice inside of his head. That is what people called the Painted Man, and legend says he comes here to strike a deal with you and take away your pain. I'm guessing this deal is probably not free, so we shall see what the Painted Man wants in return. Rabbit Hole by Kate Brody, and this is a mystery thriller. This is a twisty debut and it explores the fandom of true crime, so obviously I'm immediately interested. We follow a woman that it is desperate and obsessed at this point to solve her sister's murder, which is a cold case at the moment, and I think she goes down a rabbit hole in internet and Reddit and all of that. This twisty thriller, I think, explores what happens to your mind when you are so overwhelmed by grief that you would be willing to do absolutely anything or believe anybody, as she goes into this rabbit hole, into this investigation, and I'm really intrigued about this one, to be honest. Cold by Drew Hayden Taylor, and this is another horror mystery thriller. This combined thriller, murder mystery, horror, and even humor, and we follow two women that after a plane crash are kind of alone and stranded fending for themselves. Apparently these two women are more connected than they thought at the very beginning, and I'm intrigued about this one. I don't know if they're gonna be like isolated for the whole book or not, but I do like an isolating thriller setting. SED Seal Deb by Cynthia Murphy, and this is a YA horror thriller, and I do have this one pre-ordered. I hope my pre-order comes on time because this is one of the first books that I want to read in 2024. We follow Paige. She is obsessed with true crime, and after her family relocates back to their hometown, she realizes that in this place in the 90s, they were like a lot of murder cases that were never solved. So of course, she wants to dig deeper into the history and try to figure out what actually happened. So another book that includes true crime, and this one is by Cynthia Murphy, and I have enjoyed all her books so far. So this one, needless to say, I'm really excited for. Stratford's Lighthouse by Joshua Stevens. Matthew is the son of a pastor. They live in a big city, but his life has been mostly just church and religion. But then the family decides to relocate to a small town in Massachusetts, and there they start in a new church, and he's having trouble to adapt to a small town life and public education. And then Matthew starts having nightmares, visions, things that are starting to scare him, and he wonders if there is any sort of evil in that place. And so at some point the family is going to be forced to confront that evil. These Deadly Prophecies by Andrea Tang, and this is YA fantasy thriller. What we have here is a teenager, and she is a sorcerer's apprentice. Now, unfortunately, her teacher is brutally murdered, and all the evidence points to her, and everybody thinks that she did it. So in order to clear her name, in order to prove that she's innocent, she's gonna have to figure out who actually killed the teacher, and that is what we have here, is this kind of investigation. So it is fantasy thriller, but I wanted to mention it here in case you people are interested also in this kind of subgenre. It says it's perfect for fans of the Inheritance games and Knives Out, so you kind of know what to expect. The Lower Power by Michelle W. Miller. This is a new thriller that offers supernatural suspense and also has some historical facts from the 1990s. This book deals heavily on politics, on drug abuse, so be mindful of that, and all the riots that happened around that time. People are dealing with addiction and also prostitutes, so it is a lot focused on that. So I don't know if it's going to be everybody's cup of tea, but if you do like this kind of books, then you might enjoy this thriller. The Heir by Rachel Hawkins, and this is a mystery thriller. So we follow Camden, and after his adoptive mother dies, she leaves everything to him. She was very popular, well known, she is very rich and has all of this property and land, and she leaves everything to Cam. But he doesn't want to accept any of that. He wants to make his own life somewhere else, and years go on by, and I'm guessing at some point he's gonna have to go back and face his past. So when his uncle dies, he needs to go to the funeral. He takes his wife with him, and there they start to kind of like unbury all the different family secrets. So I'm guessing this thriller is going to be perfect for people that love domestic or family thrillers. The Jinn Waits 100 Years, and this is by Shubnum Khan, and it's a fantasy horror historical fiction. It is about a ruined mansion by the sea that is being haunted by a jinn. That is like such a cool idea. I don't think I've ever seen such a concept, and I'm a little bit intrigued, to be honest. So we follow a family that is looking for a new place to relocate, and they cannot be really picky, and so they decide to move into this mansion even though they know it's almost in ruins and they don't know anything about the history of it. Apparently this book is about the jinn obviously haunting this place, but it's also about a coming of age story, and I think there's a little bit of romance in here as well, apart from the mystery thriller part of it. So I guess this is a very specific target audience, but I thought I would mention it because it just sounded very interesting. Star Shapes by Ivy Grimes, and this is a horror novella. A woman is kidnapped and is being taken from the city to some kind of rural town, and she thought they would want something from her or even ask for a ransom, but actually they're putting her up to work in a farm, feeding the animals and dusting the place. But obviously at some point she's going to realize that there is something else that these people are hiding from her. This Wretched Valley by Jenny Kiefer. This one I'm excited about. I actually requested a copy on NetGalley, but it was declined, so sad story.
Emotional damage.
4 ambitious climbers go into the Kentucky wilderness. A couple years later, 3 bodies are discovered. Only 3, let's keep that in mind. There were 4 going in, there's 3 bodies discovered. And now is the question if these people died because of an accident or did something else happen. It is inspired by the Dyatlov Pass incident, and this is an interesting kind of survival story. It says it's perfect for fans of Alma Katsu and Yellow Jackets, the TV show, which I have been meaning to check out and I still haven't. I know, shame on me. But I'm really excited about this one. Just the pure mystery of 4 people going in, 3 bodies being discovered, nobody know what happened. I want to know. Ambrosia by Hamelin Bird. So Travis was working for the naval fleet, and then after his mom suddenly passes away, he decides to leave and return home. And then he discovers that in this town there is this agency that is a little bit suspicious, and it's kind of like a government agency, and they are starting to do like genetically modified stuff. So I think this one goes a little bit more into speculative fiction. If that is kind of your jam, then you can get excited for this one. A Place for Vanishing on Freistadt, and this is a YA horror gothic. So this is a contemporary gothic tale about a family, you know, with a teenager that decide to move into their old family house only to figure out that there's something haunting the place. We love this premise. We know it's done a lot, especially, you know, in gothic paranormal horror, but we all still love a good haunted house story. As always, this was supposed to be a fresh start for the family, but obviously there is something really wrong in the place. The house is not exactly friendly. Where You End by Abbott Kaller, and this is a mystery thriller. So the author normally was writing nonfiction, so this is his fiction debut. And I think it's based on a true case of some twins that were suffering some weird case of amnesia. When Kat is 22 years old, she wakes up from a coma, and she wakes up to see her own face, and that is her identical twin sister that she has completely forgotten about. So she relays on the twin sister to tell her everything, to try to help her bring back the memories. But is the sister gonna tell the truth about everything? Or is she lying to her? I'm really intrigued about this one, especially because it is based on a true case, and I kind of want to know the true story. Catch Your Death by Ravenna Guron, and this is a YA mystery thriller. I read her debut novel last year, and I really enjoyed it, so I'm really excited for this one. This is also going to be the January YA book club. I'm gonna be reading it so that I can join also the live discussion later on. So if you want to join us this month, then this is the book that you need to pick. This seems like a huge whodunit murder mystery in the middle of a snowstorm, so you probably need to imagine something like Knives Out, but in a secluded mansion, and everything outside being covered by snow, so the people in there are actually isolated. We follow three girls that are caught in the middle of a snowstorm, so they're looking for a place where they can just, you know, look for some sort of like refuge, and they find this family house. They go in there, but one of the family members has just been killed, murdered, poisoned, and now they have to figure out who killed this person. You Wouldn't Catch Me Dead by Tess James Mackey, and this is a YA horror thriller. Again, an author that I read last year, and I read her debut novel and I really enjoyed it. So I'm really excited for this one, and I love the cover as well. So when Keely joined her new school, she actually just wanted to kind of blend in, be kind of like in the background, not call for attention. She just wanted to blend in, and that's it. In order to get into college, she is working on some, you know, like special clubs and things that she can join to make her resume even nicer. And she decides to join these kind of like scouts that go camping outside, and they go all camping. She is in her tent. She just wants, like I said, to be ignored, blend in. She's just doing it for, you know, the recommendation for college. But people start being killed at the camp while they're camping on the woods. People start being picked one by one from the tents, and we have to figure out what's actually killing these girls. One Must Go by Alex Reed. I'm really excited for this one. I do have this one on my Kindle, so I'm probably going to be reading it for the month of January. Every year a new group is chosen. Every year a sacrifice needs to be made. A laughing, drunken god picks 3 middle grade children to be offered as sacrifice. Now, amongst the 3, they have to decide who is the one that is gonna end up dead. But the thing is, 2 will only survive if they are able to decide who's the one to die. If not, I'm guessing all 3 of them are just goners. I'm really excited about this, and I'm excited to know if people in town or, you know, in this place know what's going on. Is it something they did to piss off this god? Why is this going on? Like, I have questions. Next, we have a horror novella that is called An Affinity for Formaldehyde. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. And it's by Chloe Spencer. Lou is a queer woman and she returns home because her grandmother wants to marry and she kind of wants to stop that from happening. And when she gets there, she finds out that her grandmother is absolutely obsessed with taxidermy. And when she realizes that things are not exactly as she expected with her grandmother, something seems to be off, Lou tries to leave. But will she be able to make it out alive? I'm intrigued about this one. I don't think I have read many books about taxidermy per se, and this is a novella, so it might be a nice quick read. Flesh Communion and Other Stories by Holly Ray Garcia. So obviously this is another compilation of horror stories. There are in total 26 tale of desperation, anxiety, and terror. There is a deadly virus, there is a woman with dementia, there is a cold, there's a little bit for everybody in here. Grass Hands by Kyle Winkler. We follow a librarian assistant and they realize that there is something wrong with the books. There seem to be this kind of moss covering some of the books, and people start getting the books out of the library, and when they start reading the books, they kind of start losing their minds as well. And our main character, Sylvia, she's starting to really get scared about this moss that is changing people because she thinks it's related to a monster from her childhood called Grass Hands. So this sounds fantastic to me, especially because we have books, we have a library, people are reading the books, something's happening to the people. And I also want to know who this Grass Hands is and how do we defeat it. This is said to be a novel of biblio-horror and body horror, so yeah, I'm in for this. No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall, and this is a mystery thriller. This is a novel about 3 sisters, 2 murder, and way too many secrets to count. So Emma hasn't told much to her husband about her past, not that her parents are dead, and that she has not spoken to her sisters in many years. But then her husband gets laid off, so they're having monetary problems, and she also finds out that she's pregnant. So now they're in a really tricky situation and she feels like it's time now to come forward with more secrets from her past. And so she tells him that together with her sisters, she actually owns the parents' house. And even though it's a rundown kind of farmhouse, they probably could move in there to try to save expenses. But what she doesn't really tell him is that actually her parents died in there. Died kind of, they were murdered, and also rumor has it that Emma actually did it, but that's something that she doesn't tell her husband, like, I understand. So this is an interesting, I guess, domestic mystery thriller. Womb City, and I'm gonna try my best to pronounce the author's name. Tlotlo Samase. I hope that was correct, I tried. And this is a sci-fi horror, so it's the only one I think that I have in the list for January that is sci-fi horror. Womb City imagines a dark and a deadly future in Botswana, and it has a lot to do with culture and with folklore of the place. Our main character seems to have it all, you know, she has wealth, she has a husband, and honestly, even though her body is controlled by a microchip that she has in her body and that is controlled by the husband, she still feels happy. But in a night of celebrations, there is a hit and run. So somebody has been murdered, and now they're gonna try to figure out what is actually going on in this place. So this sounds like a very interesting sci-fi horror in which we also have a potential murder mystery, and it just sounds really unique. The Last Immortal by Natalie Gibson, and this is horror paranormal gothic. Our main character here has been accused of the murder of some of her family members, and she is now being held hostage in an asylum, and she is being tortured in there. You know, all of these experiments that we don't want to think about, but they used to happen in the past in this type of places. And she gets rescued by a guy, and you know, he takes her home and she thinks her whole life now is gonna be way better, but she's lured into this new world of bloodthirsty criminals. So I'm guessing this is going to be a woman that is turned into a vampire, I'm assuming here, I don't know. And then she's going to have to face the consequences of what it means, the pros and the cons. So I'm really interested about this one. I'm really intrigued. The Clinic by Kate Quinn is a horror mystery thriller. We are in a remote rehab clinic, and somebody wants to infiltrate into the clinic to try to investigate from the inside what actually takes place here. What happened here is basically our main character's sister had an addiction problem. So she was sent to this clinic, and then later on they said that she had committed suicide. But she's sure that her sister would never take her own life, and she wants to infiltrate, investigate, figure out what actually happened and what actually takes place inside of this building. Next we have Bone Pendant Girls by Terry Friedman, and this is a paranormal fantasy. Andy has always been able to communicate with spirits. And then one day she finds this bone pendant that is kind of shaped as a face of a girl, and she decides to buy it, only to find out that the story behind it is quite tragic. She realizes that these bone pendants that she has found actually are made of real bone, and they might be connected to missing girls. So she's gonna start investigating, and obviously she's gonna dig somewhere where she's gonna put herself in danger for trying to find out information about the girls. Next we have a middle grade horror that I'm really excited about. It's called The Doomsday Archives, The Wandering Hour by Zach Lauren Clark and Nick Eliopoulos. This is the first book in a new middle grade series that says to be similar to Goosebumps meets Stranger Things, so I'm all here for it. I do have a copy of this one as well on my Kindle, so I will try to read this one as well during the month of January. The story follows three friends that are obsessed with urban legends, only to realize that maybe they're not actually legends and it's just something that is real. There are stories in this town about mysterious disappearances, cursed objects, monsters, and this just sounds like a lot of fun, to be honest, and I'm all here for it. I love when kids try to investigate, especially urban legends. I'm here for this. The House of Last Resort by Christopher Golden, and this is a horror thriller. Across Italy, there are many teeny tiny towns that are mostly abandoned because people have been moving to bigger cities or to the coast. And so the mayor in one of these towns wants to change it. And so he decides that these houses that are almost like in ruins, he's just gonna sell them for €1 to people that are willing to move in there and at least stay there for 5 years. This just sounds already like such an interesting concept. And honestly, I'm someone that comes from a small town in Spain, and I have seen little teeny tiny towns that have been losing population, and I wonder if one day we're gonna actually get to the point where they're going to completely disappear. So the idea of a mayor trying to bring people in like this sounds actually more believable than I would love to. And so an American couple decides it's the best opportunity and they decide to move there until they realize what kind of house they bought. Apparently there are some rooms in this place that are quite unsettling. There are noises in the night, and we all know what's going to happen. Something is wrong with this place. We don't know if it's supernatural, we don't know if it's people, but we have to find out. Midnight on Beacon Street by Emily Ruth Verona, and this is another horror thriller. This is an entertaining and suspenseful debut thriller and a love letter to vintage horror movies. We have a babysitter that has to overcome her anxiety to protect the two children she is babysitting when strangers come knocking at the door. Now, this is a story old as time. There have been babysitter horror movies since 70s and way back as well, probably. I think the last one I remember seeing, like the oldest I remember seeing, is from the 70s. It's a British horror movie, and I love the concept. I think that it's always a good way of presenting a horror scenario, to have a babysitter trapped in a house with kids that she obviously wants to protect, and then having strangers probably trying to break in and kill them. I kind of am a sucker as well for this premise. Also, this takes place in 1993, so it is based in the 90s, so I am definitely here for it. What Hides in the Cupboards by Cassandra Windwalker. Following a traumatic accident, a ceramic artist decides to move from Chicago to New Mexico. But there is a dark mystery buried in the walls of her new home. I assume this one is gonna have a lot to do with more of a psychological kind of horror thriller side of things, and it's gonna be more about her and her demons. Wander in the Dark by Jumata Emil, and this is going to be a YA mystery thriller. Basically, it's about two brothers that are gonna have to find out who killed one of their classmates because they are in a pickle. One of them was seen fleeing the murder scene, and now, of course, they want answers. The guy claims that he's innocent, he gets a lawyer, but obviously if you're the one that people see fleeing the death scene, it's not gonna look good. So I'm guessing they're gonna have to dive deep into the investigation to try to figure out what happened before the police finds out, because in most of these books, the police never gets to the bottom of things. It's always other people that have to help them, let's face it. And so they have to clear their name. So I'm guessing the two brothers are working together relentlessly to try to figure out what happened to this girl and obviously who killed her, because it was not them, or that's what they claim. The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. This is YA fantasy horror, and I absolutely love this cover. The author previously wrote House of Hollow that I really enjoyed. It was a really dark, moody, atmospheric, psychological thriller horror, and it was just so unique and perfect. But I can understand why it might not work for some people because there is a lot of fantasy infused into the horror. So Sarah has just lost her sister. Her sister was murdered, and Zara needs something to believe in, so she decides to believe in magic, but she joins a kind of, I guess, society or club that deals with magic, but in this case the occult. And what she wants, obviously, is to bring her sister back from the dead. And you know me, you know, sometimes dead is better, as Stephen King already warned us when he wrote Pet Sematary. So I don't know if they're gonna manage to bring her back or not. I didn't read much further into the synopsis. I don't want to get too spoiled by synopsises. But I would be really interested about this one because after her previous novel being something that I really enjoyed, and this one dealing with the occult and trying to bring back people from the dead, I'm absolutely here for it. And those were, you guys, all the books that I had on my list that are coming out in January 2024. There's probably more out there that maybe I missed, so let me know as always down below which other ones are you really excited for in January 2024, and if there's any of the ones in this list that you cannot wait to read. There are so many good ones already in January. I'm already stressed. How am I gonna get to all of these, and how am I gonna afford all of these? I don't know, but we're gonna have to make it happen because there's many in this list that sound just too good. I hope that you enjoyed the list. I hope that there are some here that maybe you didn't know of and that now you're excited about. I'm sorry, not sorry for all the people adding books to their TBRs and carts. I'm just here to provide you with information, and you can do with it as you will. So don't kill the messenger. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you guys, as always, so much for watching. I really appreciate all your support, and I hope to see you all, as always, in our next coffee time. Bye!